What is going on in the United States Congress around this issue? I mean, are there any efforts in the Congress to eliminate the disparity, reduce it, get rid of the mandatory minimums, for example?
Okay, well, there are efforts in the House. Congressman Bobby Scott has introduced a bill to eliminate this disparity. In the Senate, when now Vice President Biden was in the Senate, he introduced a bill to eliminate the disparity. And now Senator Durbin has taken up that fight as well. We are at a stage now wherein we have to get the support of the whole Congress so that this can become a reality. It's not just enough for a bill to be introduced. That bill has to go through markup, and that bill has to be passed on the floor of the House and the Senate. There have been hearings that have been held. Lanny Brewer, this Assistant Attorney General, testified before the Senate Judiciary Committee for the elimination of the disparity. We have police chiefs that have testified. Former Police Chief Timoney of the Miami Police Department.
Chiefs in support of eliminating
in support of the elimination. And Timoney is also the president of PERF, the Police Executive Research Forum, testified in support of reform. When John Bratton was police chief of Los Angeles, he too called for an end to the disparity. Police Chief Burbank in Utah called for the elimination of the disparity.
So with all of this law enforcement support, isn't there some hope that perhaps the Congress will...
Well, we need a little bit more law enforcement support. But I will say the problem is no legislature, it's very difficult, wants to be on record saying that they call for a change in drug laws, particularly when that change will call for a lowering of drug laws. It doesn't get votes back home, unfortunately, and it's difficult. I would say there's a lot of cover out there. There's cover because you have the president, you have the attorney general. Attorney General Holder has been on record.
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk about that because certainly I think I remember President Obama during the campaign actually speaking out, for the elimination.
Yes,
Didn't hear a whole lot about criminal justice issues, but he did, at least in a few speeches. And the Attorney General, since he's been in office, has made a very strong statement. I mean, what effect can his support for the elimination of the disparity have on Congress? Can it, do you think it will have some effect? Could he testify before Congress?
Well, he had his chief law enforcement official testifying. The position of the executive branch is clear, and Holder has been on record saying that the disparity undermines confidence in the criminal justice system. So everyone knows where the administration is on this issue. We need people to knock on the doors of their members of Congress, their representatives and their senators, imploring them to do the right thing. It's been nearly 25 years that this injustice has remained. And it's not just a racial issue. We talked about the low levels. I showed the sugar packets before, but this is what 50 grams looks like. The weight of an ordinary candy bar. These are not the large-scale kingpins. These are not the type of individuals who possess these low quantities that the federal government needs to be going after. The states can handle small quantities. The federal government needs to be dealing with the folk who are bringing it into the country by the boatloads and the cargo loads and the like.
So we're talking about the federal law. Do the state laws around crack and powder distribution and possession compare? Are there some states that have some mandatory minimums?
Yes, some states do, but by and large, the crack disparity, the 100-to-1 ratio, is basically a creature of the federal government. The majority of states do not have a distinction between the laws that stark and that severe. This is mainly on the federal level.
And of course, when a drug transaction takes place in a state, the prosecutors, sometimes the federal prosecutor can, I guess it depends on who starts the investigation. If it starts as a federal investigation, I assume it's going to be prosecuted federally. But the same act could be prosecuted either locally, and that's a choice primarily of the prosecutors.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Yes, indeed.
So it's interesting because when this first started, there were some progressive people who voted for this law when it started. And what was the idea
many members of the
behind
Congressional Black Caucus, and in fact also many of the members who are now introducing bills to completely eliminate the disparity once voted in favor of it, because crack was absolutely a scourge in the community. I mean, nobody is saying that this is a drug, or any drug is welcome and anything along those lines. Communities don't want to be, communities want to be rid of drugs as well. But many times the laws and the legislation that we pass have unintended consequences. Right. And that is what happened with this law. There are many unintended consequences, the racial impact, the low-level people, just the mandatory minimums in general, where judges can't consider the circumstances of the individual in the case, such as the case of Kimber Smith, a young college student. She could have been someone like, you and I. The law needs to be changed.
Thank you, Nkechi Taifa, for sharing your insights with us today. For more information about criminal justice reform efforts, visit www.crackthedisparity.org. I'm Angela Davis, and this has been Courting Justice.